Well, good morning and welcome to Elevenses once again. I'm just running a little bit behind schedule this morning. I just had a minor computer glitch and my crib notes for this morning's show have all gone haywire. So I'm just actually cutting and pasting those across from the other PC as I speak. But welcome along to Elevenses. I'm Kevin Williams of Survival Skills Rider Training, and this is my twice weekly webcast when I bring you some topical news, some occasionally controversial views, and some better biking tips. I very much hope that I will have those better biking tips up on screen in just a moment. Don't forget, if you have anything to say, any comments, any questions, any feedback, I will do my best to get back to you as I go through the show. Now, let me just try and get the relevant bit up on screen for me to see what I'm doing. It's show number 220. It is the 6th of February. It's a Sunday, and it's actually turning into a rather nice day here at the moment in London. It is bleeding cold out there, though. It's about 6 degrees at the moment. Far too cold, in my opinion, to go riding, but I know that a lot of people were taking advantage of the nice weather yesterday. So if you are out there today, enjoy the sun. If you're not and you're here, welcome. And Kevin has looked in this morning and says, hi. Good morning. Good morning to you, Kevin. Right, what have we got for you? I've finally got the list up. Scottish Motorcycle Show is next on the Trading Standards visit list. Manchester gets a brand new bike festival in May. Triumph have U-turned on their shifting of production to Thailand, and they are bringing manufacturing back to the UK again. I wonder why that might be. A Taiwan power failure leaves electric vehicles the only ones able to fill up from battery swap stations. That's an interesting reversal of what most people would probably think. Indian motorcycles have joined the e-bike trend. A youth from Ghana has actually built an e-bike, though, powered by recycled computer batteries. Yamaha is apparently reconsidering hybrid bikes. And then today's talking point, I've got a new statistic for you. Riders 29 times more likely to be killed on a bike. And we'll be looking at how that statistic tells us quite a lot about motorcycle crashes and their causes. So settle yourselves down with a brew. Stay with me for the next 35 minutes or so, and don't forget you can catch this show every Wednesday and Sunday. And if you miss it live here on Facebook, you can always catch up on Facebook later, or you can head over to my YouTube channel. Don't forget that all important UK on the end of survival skills, or you'll find somebody sharpening a Boy Scout with a penknife or something. And you can grab the shows over there too. So plenty of ways to catch up if you can't make them live. Right, okay, so on with the first thing I wanted to say. To all those who attended the group riding live webcast on Wednesday evening, thank you very much for looking in. We had a bit of a rush of attendees at the very last moment. I hope you got to see it. I did try and get the tickets out in plenty of time, but obviously if you can book in future sort of just a wee bit earlier than 10 to 8 when I'm going live at 8 o'clock, it's damn sight easier for me to get the tickets out to you, because it unfortunately has to be done manually. I can't automate that bit yet. Anyway, for all those of you who did attend, there's a PDF summary of the presentation which I've just completed, and I'll get that out to you at some point during the day too. So okay, on with the news. As you probably know, the trading standards people have been going from show to show, checking for compliance with the CE regulations on bike kit. And the organisers of next weekend's Scottish Motorcycle Show have just sent out a notice to all their stall holders, telling them that that particular show will be attended by trading standards. So I've got the photo of that somewhere too. Where's it gone? Right, sorry, as I say, just everything. It's amazing how sometimes things just don't quite go right. And of course, as I'm doing all this on my own, I don't have a handy producer. It makes life rather tricky. So there is the notice. Basically, what it says, as some of you are already aware, trading standards have been doing the rounds on the motorcycle circuit, and they've already informed us there'll be a visit to the Scottish Motorcycle Show on the 12th and 13th of March. And they have sent out some information there about PPE standards, and they're asking for confirmation that people have read the documents as well as the event terms and conditions. So clearly the organisers there are concerned that some people may have tried to turn up with non-compliant motorcycle kit. And as Paul Varnsbury said the other week, if traders have been found to have presented non-compliant kit at previous shows and have been warned, they will face prosecution, having the kit seized if they offend again. So thanks to Paul Varnsbury for that. I did actually mean to include a link to his Facebook page and his website. Something I've much overdue doing. That's the PPE Facebook page, and the website address is here. So if you want to find out a lot more about protective clothing, do look at Paul's various sites. The Facebook page is one for up-to-date news, and the other one gives you some more in-depth information on testing. It certainly will be interesting to see if trading standards turn out to any of the other shows this year. One might well suspect that they will. The next show, which I've just got information about, is the Manchester show. I've got these pictures. It seems horribly out of order. Oh, no, that was the right way round. Right, so this is the Mancunia festival, and the Lordy. Sorry, excuse me. Right. For some reason, something else has popped up. It's all going horribly wrong today. I need a producer. Anybody who wants the job, no pay. But there we go. That's the Mancunia Motorcycle Festival. So you can pop that date in your diary, 6th to the 8th of May this year. It's said to be the first ever bike festival to be held in Manchester. The organisers are putting on a show, they say, with the very best of custom motorbikes, food, drink, and entertainment. And according to their press release, motorcycle giants Royal Enfield will be headlining the show, with official stunt rider Lee Bowers showing off his skills over the course of the weekend. Now, there's said to be a variety of custom and factory motorcycles to see throughout the festival, courtesy of what they call shed builders, hand-built specialists and major manufacturers, plus some of Manchester's finest hospitality vendors who will provide quality food and drink. There'll be a mini craft beer festival there within the bike festival, and that'll feature local breweries Cloudwater Brew Company, Pomona Island Beer, Wild Beer Company, and Rivington. And they will also have a low and no alcohol bar. The festival's co-promoter, someone called Will Evans, who owns Manchester's Union Brewery, said, "This is an event I've wanted to create for some years now. The North of England isn't well served when it comes to motorcycle shows of any kind, and we really want to bring something fresh and new to Manchester." Although I have to say the organisers of the Manchester Bike Show that was held in January might argue about that. But nevertheless, pop the date in your diary. The Mancunia Motorcycle Festival is scheduled for May the 6th to May the 8th, 2022 at the Depot Mayfield, which is in the city centre. Just be aware that Manchester does have a congestion charging zone. Tickets went on sale on Friday, and early bird tickets are available now with a discount. So there you go, something for you Mancunians to visit. Nick has looked in and said hello. Good morning, Nick. Nice to see you. Right, what else have we got for you today? Well, Triumph, rather surprisingly, have pulled a major U-turn, and they have or about to restart manufacturing in the UK once again. Now, this is a major, major policy reversal because Triumph Motorcycles have announced that the factory is going to triple bike production at its Hinckley factory. Now, in 2020, you may recall, Triumph announced it was shutting down nearly every production line and shifting its main manufacturing operation to Thailand. And the final models to be built at the Hinckley factory in 2020 were the Speed Triple and the Tiger 1200. Now, although the research and development division remained, the shutting down of the other production lines for bikes like the Twins, of course, resulted in a significant loss of jobs. But here we are 2 years later, and Triumph say that increasing sales in the UK and European markets, overall growth in their global dealer network, and a bigger global footprint of the brand are leading them to resume production in the UK. Production will expand to 15,000 motorcycles a year initially, then to 20,000 a year. And the move is expected to bring back around 100 jobs. One machine Triumph will manufacture in the UK is the new Tiger 1200, which will also be built in its Thailand factory. The Tiger 900 range will also be manufactured at Hinckley by the end of this year, and so will the Rocket 3 and the Speed Triple. The Hinckley factory is expected to be up to speed and operating on manufacturing again in about 9 months' time. A skeptic might, of course, ask if there is any particular problem with importing bikes into the EU from Thailand in terms of tariffs that I don't know about. Another skeptic might say that if the power supply went offline, electric vehicles would be useless. Well, you might have to rethink that. There was a massive power outage in Taiwan on Thursday morning, and it actually sends a surprising message to those of us who worry about the dependency of electric vehicles on the grid. Now, the power failure was actually a real-world test of Gogoro's electric scooter battery swap stations, because they do have a capacity to run completely off grid. Now, the power failures themselves were triggered by a problem at a Jacinta power plant. It impacted all parts of Taiwan, but particularly the southern part of the island. Now, ultimately, the power outage apparently cut off electricity to around 5 million households, according to Reuters. And it also, of course, shut down key infrastructure, including petrol stations, where drivers and riders found there was no power to pump fuel. But the network of Gogoro's Go stations managed to remain operational. They have thousands of these battery swapping stations across Taiwan, and they house anything from a few dozen batteries to thousands, apparently, of swappable batteries, which fit both cars and bikes. They normally recharge the batteries from the grid, but they are able to isolate themselves and maintain operation for several days because they are also powered by their own internal batteries. Now, in this case, Goro's battery customers, which it said number in the hundreds of thousands, they were the only ones actually able to fuel up their vehicles. And a representative of the company explained to a magazine called Electric, which specializes in electric technology, 5 million people were without power. Everything went down except our swapping stations. All our customers were still able to swap. Even the gas stations were closed because they couldn't pump gas. Right, so this is a fairly unusual story. So, as I say, if you enjoy the show, do pop over to my Ko-fi page and have a look over there at the archive of information, which is all the old Facebook stuff. Now, I don't do too much self-promotion, but I thought I would actually put something up for you to have a quick look at. If I can damn well find it again. Right, okay. First of all, a bit of feedback. The Helen She wrote, "Your posts are fabulous. I read them all, enjoying it, sharing it far and wide where it's free content, of course, marveling at how on earth you managed to turn out so much material." Well, thanks, Helen. To be honest, as I said in my response to her, the fact is motorcycling, rider skills, road safety generally are, for me, the gift that just keeps on giving. Barely a day goes by, frankly, without something making me think about what I've just seen, either when I'm out on the road, on the bike or in the car, something I read, or something I simply hear somebody else say. So I really struggle for a topic. And Clive added, he said, "Well worth the price for coffee each month. Informative and interesting pieces. I like that they're well thought out and don't stick to any doctrine, just well reasoned and researched. More importantly, it's always current." Well, I certainly tried to do that with the talks about the highway code issues. And just to give you a sort of quick flavour of what's going on over on my coffee page at the moment, there's some of the latest posts. There's some about teaching theory. There's a long-running series about how to fail your bike test, which looks at actually passing your test with a rather different twist. The idea being to warn you about some of the mistakes that can trip you up. And there's been a series on the Smith system of space cushion driving too that you can read, plus plenty of other stuff to look at. So do pop over, do have a look at what's on offer over on the coffee page. All content on Facebook is free. All content on YouTube is free. On coffee, you basically have three options. You can become a follower. It doesn't cost you a penny, and then you get access to all the free articles, and you get email advice as well when they come in. If you are generous enough to support me with a £3, which buys me a coffee, basically, that gives you the access to the back catalogue of old Facebook posts. So let's go right back to 2014, and I've already put up 2014 to 2019. 2021's posts are all up as well, and I'm working my way through 2020. So when those are up, that'll be 800 posts in total to read. You'll need to read 30 a day to get through all those in a month. So you may decide that being a subscriber is a better option. That's £3 a month, and then you can take your time reading all that content. Plus, you get access to a lot more specialist content too. So head over to coffee.com/survival skills and sign up today. Follower, supporter, or subscriber, it's your choice. Right, okay, so where was I? Electric motorcycles. Yes, right. Okay, so I'll just going to find the relevant photo again. So everything's a bit out of order this morning. Yes, here we go. Now, if you're a fan of Indian motorcycles, you're probably not waiting for the moment they create an electric motorcycle. And even if you were waiting for an electric motorcycle, this probably isn't the one that you wanted to see from them. That is clearly missing anything that vaguely resembles the iconic V-twin motor. And I would basically, when I clicked on the story to see what they'd done, I was thinking perhaps something like the Harley Livewire. But as you can see, what they've basically done is that they've leapt into bed with another e-bike manufacturer, and they've done a sort of a branding and styling job, basically taking an ordinary e-bike and giving it some fairly daft looks. Now, the e-bike manufacturer involved is a company called Super 73, and this EFTR Hooligan 1.2 is actually based on their Super 73 S2 electric bicycle. So you get the powertrain that's straight off the e-bike, and what's said to be a motorcycle inspired design created by Indians. So basically you get an LED headlight, wind deflector on top of it. That makes all the difference, I think. And those, of course, those balloon motorcycle style tires. Oh, and no mudguards, which will make it very practical in the rain, I suppose. Anyway, nevertheless, You also get a custom-made seat. You get a gold chain and stunning red accents, which apparently complete the whole look of this new bike to capture the spirit of the iconic Indian motorcycle brand. Now, frankly, it looks more like the sort of thing that a 10-year-old kid would knock up in the shed. I don't know if you remember the days of attaching a sort of bit of cane to the back of the bike, so it went round with or it got flicked by the rear wheel spinning. And sounded a bit like a motorbike. Well, frankly, that's what this machine actually reminds me of. Made for epic adventures, it says in the press release. Well, it's more like epic embarrassment, frankly, when you've just spent $4,000 on it and you're caught riding the 40 miles it can go on throttle or 75 miles with pedal assist. Cycling your Indian down the road doesn't really do it for me, I have to say. Kevin says on the back of the power outage story, curious to the possibilities of solar powered charging of EVs. There are business offering such kit. Yes, indeed, there are. I have actually, I'm fairly sure I've actually seen some of the Gogoro stations, or there may be another brand working somewhere else. I can't quite remember, but I'm sure I've seen them with solar panels on. I know, for example, that the Swedish brand Cake have provided e-bikes to game rangers in West Africa, East Africa, and those bikes are powered completely off the grid by solar charging stations. So yes, it can be done. Right. Okay. So if you want to see something a little more professional than the rather bizarre Indian we've just seen, take a look at this one. Now, this is actually the creator of the bike sitting on top of it. He's a Ghanaian man. He's 26-year-old Lawrence Adji, and he has built this bike to be powered using recycled laptop batteries. He's actually built a business out of this apparently, and he fits the old batteries into a power pack, which when they're combined puts out about 72 volts, and then builds the e-bike around them. According to an interview with Lawrence, he says the bike has a range of 120 kilometers, which is fairly impressive. And he also says that that he loves custom building, but he's not a welder, but he does everything himself from scratch. He says, I use empty laptop batteries. I open them up and test them on a machine. This battery is 77 volts with 37 amp hours, which is about 2.7 or 2.8 watts. And he says he has a custom charger that plugs into the mains to charge the bike, which takes about 3 hours. So that's pretty impressive skills there, and proves that you can actually make something that looks rather better than that Indian. Oh God, I hated that. I really did hate that. Probably made that fairly clear by now. Right. So what else is going on? Well, according to reports, Yamaha is taking another look at the concept of hybrid motorcycles. Now, they showed off two hybrid powered concepts as far back as 2005. The Gen Ryu combined an R6 engine and an electric motor in a low slung Tourer, whilst the HV01 was a more conventional scooter using the same idea. And over the next couple of years, they actually showed another pair of concepts on the hybrid theme, including this one. That is actually a 250cc liquid cooled petrol engine. You can see it if you look closely at the bottom of the frame there. You can see it sort of sitting almost flat on the floor. The electric motor is behind it, and above it, in the sort of under the tank, there would still be a petrol tank, of course, as it would need fuel. There is a battery for the bike. The electric motor looks pretty bulky, actually, doesn't it? Fairly. It was only 20 horsepower as well. So this is, remember, very early technology as far as electric vehicles were concerned, 2009. But this bike was shown actually being ridden in videos, so it was presumably, if not production ready, at least it showed the direction that Yamaha were thinking. However, the timing was bad. The bike appeared just at the time that the global financial crisis impacted the world, and bike sales around the world plummeted. And the result was, of course, that the bike vanished without trace. So, what's happening now? Well, it appears that Yamaha are back on the trail of the hybrid. Now, that earlier bike, the petrol engine and the electric motor could both drive the wheel at the back either on their own or in tandem. Now, it's a concept which basically allows the petrol engine to shut off in urban areas for fully electric operation. So, the electric motor is big enough to pull the bike away and to make it go at low speeds, but the petrol engine takes over for cruising at higher speeds. Now, a lot of riders are actually unaware that you only actually need 30 horsepower or so from a motor to actually cruise at 100 miles per hour. Um, but what you haven't got is much acceleration. So the idea is that the petrol engine would be supplemented by the electric power to give the bike much bigger bike acceleration. So that's when they two engines combine. Now, the refreshed Yamaha design appears to take a slightly different route to this. It appears to go with a fully electric drive system. The small petrol engine is therefore not intended to drive the bike, but actually operates as range extender. That concept is used in some cars. Now, it appears that Yamaha actually gained a patent for such a design in 2020. Now, further documents have appeared showing 3 hybrid designs have been published, and so it does suggest that progress is being made on this project. Now, details are still sketchy, but the smallest appears to be a 125cc sort of size scooter with a petrol engine generator under the frame and under the seat. The battery lives under the seat, the electric motor's on the swinging arm, so fairly standard sort of scooter design. With no need to drive the rear wheel, one thing they can do with the battery powered generator is actually bolt it to elastic mount so it doesn't actually vibrate. There's also a maxi scooter design and a motorcycle which actually moves the petrol engine position, and now it moves it high up under the steering head area. The large electric powertrain fills the space normally occupied by the conventional engine and transmission. So, Kawasaki are expected to launch a hybrid later this year. Yamaha may not be so far behind. Right. So, okay. Um, what was I going to say? Oh yes. Well, according to a snippet I picked up from a new report on crashes just the other day, motorcycles are 29 times more likely to be involved in accidents than other motorized vehicles. And the document goes on to explain that various reasons have been put to the fore. And this is what they say: motorcycles have a low visual profile. That is due to their smaller size. It's harder to see them compared to cars, lorries, or buses. It's also easier to lose control on a motorcycle due to manufacturer defect or improper maintenance. Well, I'm not sure many motorcycles are actually manufactured with defects. Improper maintenance is a possibility, but motorcycles are simply unstable due to the fact they only have 2 wheels and you need 3 corners to support a structure minimum. So they basically say that novice riders who may not be familiar with the ABCs of motorcycling can end up being involved in accidents. So yes, that's another factor, not having a lot of experience. They also say recklessness and drink driving are among the main causes of motorcycle accidents. Well, they are certainly groups that are overrepresented in motorcycle accidents. I wouldn't say they're the main causes. But does any of that actually sound familiar? Well, it probably does. But you'll likely be amazed to discover that this refers to motorcycle and scooter crashes in Tanzania. And that's really the point I want to round off with this morning. It doesn't really matter where you go to look for bike crashes. You'll find that the causes and the statistics which tell us about the numbers are actually pretty common around the world. There have been a large number of studies done, obviously, into bike crashes, and it doesn't matter whether we look at North America, USA and Canada, you go to Australasia, New Zealand, Australia, um, even the Far East. If you compared all those figures with Europe and the UK, what you tend to find is that the accidents tend to be the same, and that the major collision is at a junction. Riders fall off and lose control of their bikes, often on corners, and overtaking is also overrepresented in fatal crashes. You'll find those figures pretty much wherever you go. And that, once you begin to understand that, should tell you that rider safety isn't about training standards. It's not about driving standards. It's not about enforcement. It's not about the road infrastructure. Yes, if you think about the differences between, sort of the roads that you're likely to find in, I don't know, well, Indonesia, or you go and look at the roads in the US and you look at the roads in the UK, they're all completely different. But we have the same accidents on motorcycles pretty much wherever you go. One of the big claims that's often made is that training makes motorcycling safer. Just about any advanced rider training website, and I have to confess that I do have some words to that effect on my own website, although I do try and qualify them. But you'll see claims that it makes riders a lot safer. But in fact, recent studies should really make us start asking if that's actually right. We've had in the UK 60 years of safety engineering, education, and enforcement, but each generation of new riders still makes the same mistakes the same way. Rather alarmingly, there is actually little solid evidence that conventional post-test training actually reduces the risks for the riders who take it. Now, the IAM themselves ran a presentation on the Road Safety GB series of online seminars in spring 2021. I actually presented the science of being seen on that very series of talks. And one of the strange results that surprised and shocked a lot of people is that once you take out the account, the advanced riders who with the IAM Road Smart, they do have fewer collisions per mile, but that can be accounted for partly because they do a lot more riding out of town. But once you actually look at the injuries and incident reports, they don't actually report fewer crashes. In fact, they have similar collision involvement to others. And they're also less likely to believe that it was their fault, unfortunately, although, there's not much consolation to the rider when they've been knocked off. So that's the IAM's own data. Similar proportions of collision involvement, less likely to believe they were at fault. And this really drills us down to the fact that the vast majority of crashes are not the sort of aberrant or erratic behavior that people think they are. The statement from Tanzania, as I just said, claimed that reckless riding and driving and drinking were factors in their crashes. Well, as I said, if you are one of those riders, you are more likely to crash. But when you actually look at the crash stats themselves and start counting up who crashed, you'll find that the vast majority actually involve ordinary riders doing pretty ordinary things. And one thing we can say immediately is that those riders didn't set out to crash. They may have made poor decisions. Somebody else may have made a poor decision around them. But the trouble is that in the run up to the crash, people are unaware that things are likely to go wrong. And this is often because we've actually completed the same task successfully in the same situation, or what appears to be the same situation, many, many times beforehand. So why doesn't training actually improve things? Why aren't we training people to be more aware of why things go wrong? Well, there's a piece of research by somebody called Frank McKenna. He's a professor of psychology and a director of perception and performance, and he made this report to the RAC Foundation. And what he said was educational interventions are often not sophisticated and are not based on any theory or on a formal body of knowledge. And he said that designing an educational intervention with no guiding theory is like designing a medical intervention with no understanding of physiology. And one of the other issues is that road safety tends to be retrospective. It tends to be looking at what should have been done rather than what could be done. We actually tend to prevent accidents that have already happened, or at least that's the intent of it. If you think about speed cameras, where they go up, the criteria are that there have to have been prior accidents in that area. Very often they put a speed camera up and it's not the speed camera that actually causes the accidents in that area to fall. It's just that there was an unfortunate cluster in that area, and in fact there was no particular problem with that area at all. It was just a statistical blip that led to the cluster of accidents that stuck the speed camera up. But the speed camera operators, they like to say that it's their camera that's made things safer. Look at on it on a longer time frame and you'll find things that are very different. And we're taught to think about collisions in the wrong way, in my opinion. We know full well as motorcyclists that the big problem for us is a right-of-way violation, as it's called, when a driver pulls into the path of a motorcycle who is on the priority road. And the hindsight approach to that says that the driver should have been better educated or coerced into driving better with a threat of harder punishment. And that's the intuitive solution, of course, but we've had interventions aimed at drivers for 60 years, ever since the Think Once, Think Twice, Think Bike advert came out. And has it done any good? Well, no, it hasn't actually, has it? Because those drivers never expect to make the error in front of a motorcycle. But what about the other crashes? What about the single vehicle crashes that riders have? They account for a very significant proportion of killed and seriously injured in sort of US, Canada, UK, Europe, Australia, and New Zealand. Rather less so in places like Thailand and Taiwan, but there's still significant numbers on who crash on corners. But how do you tackle that? Is it going to be done by coercion and punishment? Well, not really. It's the hindsight-based view, but it doesn't really help other people. So, unfortunately, the sort of safety campaigns haven't really nailed the spot, and we're still having the very same accidents that we had historically. Go back to our grandparents' generation, and you'll find that they had the same accidents in the 1960s. Go back to the end of the war period and you'll find exactly the same motorcycle crashes filling the story. Things do change. I found a very routine story in a local paper from a small island off the Australian mainland, where the infrastructure minister Renee Hidding said that the rate of motorcycle accidents in Tasmania had become too high. And the solution being put in place is to roll out more mandatory training. But Ms. Hidding said this: it became obvious that people in the industry knew that the process of training was wrong. And Victoria-based trainer Duncan McRae, he's worked with new trainers ahead of their new curriculum being rolled out. And basically what he said is that the curriculum has been built around educating riders about the 5 common crash types we see most often. So in Tasmania, they have realized that teaching riders perfect skills isn't the answer. Guess what I have been trying to achieve for 25 years? Exactly that. I've been trying to teach riders about crashes rather than technical riding skills. Right, that is pretty much it for today. We have a couple of comments here. Kevin actually says we have fewer alcohol associated crashes with bikers. Yes, we do. Still too many, but it's absolutely correct. New Zealand has a bit of a problem with alcohol and driving, mostly because bars are sort of 50 miles away from where people live. I suspect the same is pretty much true in more rural parts of the US too, where they also have an alcohol problem. Andy says that he is able to charge his EV from solar and keep it topped up for March to September. That's excellent news. And he's got a link there for the kit. Kevin just thanks Andy for that. Well, that's pretty much it for today. As I say, I hope you've enjoyed the show. Just a couple of quick reminders. The next presentation out is the full Science of Being Seen, which goes out on Wednesday the 6th. And just in case you have forgotten, Science of Being Seen is a 45-minute talk covering human visual perception and motorcycle conspicuity. I explain why conventional high-vis clothing and day riding lights have proven less than successful at preventing junction collisions, and I suggest some proactive strategies to use for yourself to actually keep yourself out of trouble, so you don't even need the high vis and the day riding lights. So that goes out Wednesday the 6th of April at 8 o'clock. Cost for that is £5, and it's there's the link there for you to book up. So do come along to that if you possibly have the option. And that really sums up everything I wanted to say today. As I said, a bit of a muddle here because my little file of notes crashed. So yeah, that's it for today. Nothing else to say. Thanks for tuning in. Look forward to seeing you again on Wednesday. And if you're out there riding later today, it's just clouded over a bit here in London now after a promising morning. Do take it easy out there and stay shiny side up. And hope to see you for the next show.